Good morning. My name is Betsy Cates, and I am your worship associate this morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 343 in your gray hymnal, A Fire Mist and a Planet.
Good morning. My name is Chris Fenton, and I am the treasurer of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting us, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homelands of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. We have several announcemements today. Thank you all to whoever came out to help for the autumn cleanup day yesterday. It was awesome. We had a huge turnout. Many hands make light work. The Building and the Grounds Committee did a great job of organizing our efforts. There were at least 26 people there, including 2 children. Thanks, Felix and Maggie. The boutique has a new line of handmade African jewelry. All proceeds go to support the programs at UUCHV. The boutique is now in the Blue Room, which is the small room near the kitchen in Fellowship Hall during coffee hour. The holidays can be an especially lonely time for those incarcerated in prison and jails. Please join us after the service next Sunday, November 23rd, in the Fellowship Hall to send caring messages to inmates spending the holidays apart from their loved ones. This program is sponsored by the Worthy Now Prison Ministry through the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship, where our affiliate minister, Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, is one of the lead ministers. The Board of Trustees had its monthly meeting last Wednesday, and one of our practices is to identify and thank people who went above and beyond in providing service to the UUCHV community. Today, we want to thank Hospitality Team 1, led by Ganelle Ridstrom and Daria Gregg, for hosting the coffee hours in the month of October. For the most up-to-date information on these topics and others, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check out our website frequently. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you are present in the sanctuary, please join us for coffee and conversation in Fellowship Hall. If you're watching the live stream, the link for our Zoom coffee hour can be found in the Saturday reminder in your email. If you are just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us at uucroton@gmail.com with your name, and we'll make sure you are added to the e-news list. Also, please remember to silence your cell phones at this time. And once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
As we gather this Sunday, I want to do a few things. One is to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for cultivating and choosing and creating community. I don't know if this is working, so I'm going to use this mic. That's much better. Thank you for being here, for choosing and cultivating a space of connection and community. And truly, thank you for showing up. Our Unitarian Universalist congregation is one of thousands around the world of people gathering with a commitment and a curiosity. And this week has been tender for many people in our world, in our nation, and in our congregation. On Tuesday, we celebrated Veterans Day as a nation and recalled those who have made so many sacrifices and still do for the protection of our democracy. We also this week lift up the ongoing struggle for transgender awareness and dignity and rights, and particularly think about all the veterans who are being forced out of our armed forces due to the discriminatory policies in place. And in our congregation, in this congregation, we have a tender heart, because we learned this week that our beloved minister emeritus, Reverend Jim Covington, passed away. Reverend Jim lived a life committed to joy and dignity and love. He offered a prayer once that said, "I pray our sadness will embolden us to savor life, even as we know more than ever that life is fragile and suffering is inevitable. I pray our hope in the greater goodness of people will not falter." Reverend Jim's wife, Suzanne, sent a beautiful note and sends love to this community. In the coming days and weeks, we'll learn more about memorials and celebrations, but Suzanne is committed to having Reverend Jim's celebration of life in this congregation in the new year, because she said out of all the ministries and out of all the places that meant so much to them, this is where his heart was. So we will celebrate his life in the new year and carry on that commitment of dignity and joy and faith in the greater goodness. So this morning, thank you for having faith in the greater goodness. And let the children of our congregation, and there were at least 3, I know there were at least 3 yesterday, come forward and join Jane in the bell tower of this sanctuary, where we will ring our bells in honor of Reverend Jim, his values, and the hope of our faith. Yes. May we be surrounded by love as we recommit to the values of hope. And now we light a symbol of our faith.
We will now light our chalice. The chalice lighting words are in your order of service. The unison affirmation. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. And we now have a reading. We're going to sing some songs of praise first. And I'm going to turn on my mic.
Would you join in your gray hymnal number 381 and 382, Songs of praise in English and Spanish. That dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and At this point, we will hear a voice, a teacher perhaps, from a young generation. I invite Lindy, who is our religious exploration assistant and an active member of this congregation, to offer a reading for us.
As Unitarian Universalists, we draw upon and are inspired by sacred and secular understandings to seek wisdom and practice compassion. Our reading today is from Maria Mitchell, a creative and brilliant 19th century astronomer who is a boundary breaker for women's rights.
Born and raised on the island of Nantucket, Mitchell was the first female astronomer in the United States and first professor of astronomy at Vassar College. Mitchell was raised Quaker and a regular attendee at Unitarian and Universalist congregations as an adult. She was dedicated to the Book of Nature and the study of truth. She wrote, "I hold the simple student of nature in holy reverence."
The following is a selection of her writing number 537 in our gray hymnal, Our Whole System. Small as is our whole system compared with the infinitude of creation, brief as is our life compared with the cycles of time, we are so tethered to all by the beautiful dependencies of law, that not only the sparrow's fall is felt to the uttermost bound, but the vibrations set in motion by the words that we utter reach through all space, and the tremor is felt through all time.
Thank you. When we hear voices from the past, they can invite us to settle in and contemplate and reflect in the infinitude, the brief span of life, the ripples of our words across time and space. Now is a moment in our service for meditation, for pause, for reflection. In a moment, we'll do a breathing exercise to breathe in and out and be present with our senses. But first, I want to offer in full the prayer, one of the prayers that Reverend Jim authored in a time of crisis and pain. I pray for wisdom over prideful revenge. I pray our consciences will be quickened and clear. I pray our anger will guide us to the right path of justice. I pray that our fear will heighten our awareness of the preciousness of life and not immobilize us. I pray our sadness will embolden us to savor life, even as we know more than ever that life is fragile and suffering is inevitable.
I pray our hope in the greater goodness of people will not falter. I pray we will not fall to self-righteousness or deny our own hypocrisy. I pray that we will continue to cherish each other and love one another, knowing humbly that no one is perfect, and that if we care enough, we can see the same tears, pain, and joy in the face of one another, just as in ourselves. Amen. Love to all. In this moment, I invite us to take a deep breath in and out. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I feel the whole length of my in-breath. Breathing out, I feel the whole length of my out-breath. Breathing in, I acknowledge my sorrows. Breathing out, I honor my sorrows. Breathing in, I honor my joys. Breathing out, I honor my joys. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I dwell in the present moment. Breathing out, it is a wonderful moment. As Reverend Jim said, love to all. After a moment of silence and breathing, you'll hear music for a new hymn, number 1034, De Noche. You can hear the tune once and then join. In our tradition, we unite in the search for truth and the spirit of love. Reverend Jim did that with joy. One fact I learned recently was that some years Reverend Jim would officiate 100 weddings. 100. I usually officiate 2. And I think that commitment to couples, and as Peter taught me this week, couples who are interfaith, couples who are LGBT in the 90s, couples who at a time when many clergy and many religious traditions were closing doors of welcome, Reverend Jim purposely sought out couples across boundaries to bless and sanctify and honor their love. And what a beautiful gift. And what a beautiful legacy. So in honor of those values in spirit and love, the children in our congregation will join Jane in religious exploration and exploring what is love. And I hear there's a special treat, but I won't talk about that. And to sing the children out, we go with this beautiful anthem, Go Now in Peace, number 413 in the Gray Hymn Book. On occasion in our congregation, we hear voices of the people connected to committees. And this Sunday, we will have a voice of the committee from Ginny Stillman, speaking on behalf of our Social Justice Committee and our Democracy Action Team.
Good morning. I didn't have any voice 2 weeks ago when I was supposed to do this. I have a little more of a voice now, so bear with me. Good morning. If you are feeling overwhelmed and depressed by the daily onslaught of attacks on our democracy by the federal administration, you probably ask the same question that I do. But what can I do about it? What difference can I make? In June of 2025, this past June, the delegates at the UUA General Assembly, including our Betsy Tomic and Jane Padel, passed the Action of Immediate Witness titled Faithful Defiance of Authoritarianism, a call to action reaffirming our covenant for democracy and freedom. You'll find a copy of this in your order of service. Take a quick 10-second look, and you will see that it begins with, on the first page, with a series of because and whereas statements about our UU faith, our beliefs, and our principles, followed by the second page, resolutions to take bold action. So you're all with me? Okay. So what is an action of immediate witness, or AIW for short? It's a statement about a significant action, event, or development in the world that necessitates immediate engagement and action among UU member congregations and groups. Most congregations adopt their own version of an AIW to empower them to recommend local efforts and actions to take. In a time of rising authoritarianism, we are called to act boldly in defense of democracy and human dignity. Grounded in UU principles, the AIW resolution offers a path forward for congregations to organize, educate, and resist in a faithful community. So our Social Justice Committee here at UUCHV is looking for a few members to help craft our own resolution from this template from the UUA, and that we will vote on and adopt at our mid-year meeting in January. So that's what I'm looking for, a couple people who can meet, and we'll kind of hash out how we want to draft a resolution. So there are several national UU organizations that offer some help, including the Unitarian Universalists for Social Justice, or UUSJ for short. You may see at the bottom of every e-news sometimes a link to that, about actions that you can take. They offer weekly, very timely actions that have to do with advocacy, and many other things. We have two versions of the UUA template that were drafted and adopted by several other Unitarian congregations, including one by the Fourth Unitarian Congregation of Westchester, here in Mohegan Lake, where Reverend Lane Cobb serves as minister. Many of you know her. So both of these versions, and there are others, can offer us ideas to help draft our own resolution. So here are some of the UU social justice recommendations. That's the group, the UUSJ. And there are other Unitarian organizations that can offer similar suggestions. But the first is to create a democracy action team in our congregation to provide leadership, coordination, strategy, and energy for pro-democracy work. Number two is collaborate with existing UUCHV social justice group, building on our own welcoming congregation, Green Sanctuary, and other subgroups. Collaborate with other local and regional UU congregations here in Westchester and Rockland. Partner with local pro-democracy organizations and coalitions to take action. Here are but just a few suggestions. Collaborate with the League of Women Voters to help with voter registration, candidate forums, advocacy for New York state legislation to protect voter data information, and more. Support the New York State ACLU in efforts to protect immigrant, LGBTQ, and women's reproductive rights. Support the local CoHope Indivisible organization in its nonpartisan actions to protect our democracy. And there are more. There's NAACP, there's other local groups. Number 5 is to build local interfaith coalitions to speak out against authoritarianism. That might be working with the clergy here in Croton and in Ossining and Peekskill. And finally, a pro-democracy team would help to build and promote, participate in national mobilizations, rallies, and economic boycotts. So together, these steps form a faithful, strategic, and escalating response to authoritarian threats. When we act collectively, grounded in love and courage, we can defend democracy and build a more just future for all. So if you're interested in helping to draft our own AIW resolution and may help to build a democracy action team, see me during coffee hour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny. Our reading today is from the Welcoming and Affirming Croton Clergy Coalition. Originally written and published this spring, we revisit this public letter on Transgender Awareness Week following Veterans Day. As clergy representing varied faith traditions, we unite in our commitment to freedom of religion, due process, and equal protection under the law. We are profoundly disappointed and angry at the new Department of Defense guidelines removing active duty members who are transgender and non-binary from service. Removing current and future Americans who are transgender and non-binary from national services chaplains, enlisted personnel and officers contradict religious freedom, and respect for the diversity of the American people. Transgender American chaplains, soldiers, and sailors protect, defend, serve, and are part of our nation. Our religious traditions have a range of relationships to the armed services, from long histories of conscientious objection to all wars to active service in the armed forces. Alongside the varied ways our faith traditions support work for peacekeeping and peacemaking, we are committed to advocate that all of our country's institutions reflect the diversity of our people. Our republic is dedicated to equal protection under the law, and our faith traditions teach that all humans are a reflection of the divine and are worthy of our respect and our love. Transgender service members deserve our support. And now is the time in our service for joys and sorrows. We come together in community to share with one another, to support one another, and to celebrate with one another. We bear sacred witness to each other in this honored ritual. As we begin, we know that there are both great sorrows and great joys in our world that must be acknowledged as well. We light our first candle to honor those in pain, victims of violence and war and oppression all around our world. We light a second candle because we understand that amidst all of that pain, there's also celebration and joy in our world. We honor that joy and sorrow are woven together. For some of us here today, this has been a week of deep pain and sorrow that needs to be shared to make the burden lighter. If this has been such a time for you, I invite you to come forward to light a candle and to briefly tell us of your joy or sorrow. You may also raise your hand in silent acknowledgement of your joys and sorrows, and we will light a candle for you. Please remember that your joys and sorrows are being shared on the live stream and the broader virtual community.
Our first candle I light for the life and love and ministry and family of Jim Covington. I invite us to have a moment of silence for Reverend Jim. And may we hold that hope in the greater good.
I'm Maddie Hunter, and I'm here to really celebrate a moment of joy that I had with my son this week. He lives in the UK. He lives on the Yorkshire moors, and it's a landscape that many people think is bleak or desolate, but he is in love with the heather and the rock formations and the life that myth holds in those spaces. And he's a musician, and he wanted to share a music piece that he wrote this week that reflected a cello instrumentation that he's just learned. He's just learned how to play the cello. And he wanted me to hear the myth first, and the myth is about a couple of giants, a man and woman, who are having a spat, and the wife has taken her apron, put lots of small rocks in her apron, and she's throwing them at her husband, who is fleeing in protest. And Will took the point of view of the man who was running away in this song, and he described a refrain to me, which is, Instead of running, he needs to lie down in the moors and rest. And I was very taken with this, and we got talking about that particular line, and he revealed to me that he is reflecting on when he runs away and when he doesn't sit still and reflect, like during the time of his adolescence, which was so fraught with everything you can imagine that goes on with kids that are not in a good place. And I was just filled with joy that he was sharing with me this moment where he was reflecting on his life and all of the challenges that he had. And I just felt like finally I had the evidence that he was lying down this foundation for joy and love in his life, and I was just so excited. So thank you for letting me share this story.
Hi, I'm Emily Villar, and 11 years ago on this day, I was in the hospital having just given birth to 2 babies and feeling like I had no idea what I was doing, which I didn't, but knowing that everything had changed. And today is the birthday of our twins, Sebastian and Flora, who we're so delighted that so many of you are getting to know and will continue to get to know. And so much has changed and changed and changed again in the past 11 years. And now that we have tweens, I am often confronted by the no idea what I'm doing feeling again. But it is just the greatest joy to watch them growing into themselves, and it's the greatest honor to get to help them do it. So we are celebrating them today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Margie Kemper. My pronouns are she, her, and I have a joy to share as my role representing our Fourth Fridays program for LGBTQ youth, which meets once a month in Peekskill. And last Thursday, I was invited to join a coalition led by the Peekskill Youth Bureau and supported by about a dozen different organizations in Peekskill that serve youth. So it really felt like we were recognized as one of their partners, and now we have this ability to connect on many levels that have not been available to us yet. So yay for people who support LGBTQ youth.
Hi, my name is Dustin, and I attended this congregation. This is my 3rd time as a visitor, and 2 weeks ago, I was able to go back to my hometown back in Phoenix, Arizona, and attend my 35th high school reunion, and it was special for many reasons. But one of them is 11 years ago, I came to New York, came out myself, and to go back to my high school reunion 35 years later, as an open, proud gay man with my partner, Mantella. And so I appreciate this congregation for welcoming us here, and it was very special to introduce my partner to my adult children, and to my friends, and to my siblings. And so thank you for being such a welcoming congregation.
Hi, my name is Kevin Green. Several weeks ago, Scott, one of the members here, got up and gave us a saying that he was familiar with about quietness of heart. And then he sent me the thing, and I've been sort of meditating on it for a while. And it's what I've been getting and doing recently is trying to lead with my heart in terms of when I make decisions and sort of. I was posed this question to several friends of mine: can you actually think with your heart? Got back some really interesting answers, but again, thank this community. It's made a huge difference just in the last couple of weeks. Somebody that I haven't been in touch with 10 years reached reached out to them, and it was a good story. Anyway, thank you. And one other thing is my cousin is coming for Thanksgiving, and I've spoken about Nick before, Nick's mother asked me if he could bring a girl with him this time. And of course I said, which we would always say. And also being at the Israeli temple just on Friday reminded me that Jews are very much like this, open, inviting people, wandering Jews. And of course I said, one more person is always invited to my table, or our table is what I said. So, anyway.
Hello, my name is Ann Pearl. So piggybacking a little bit on Flora and Sebastian's mom's Joy, you reminded me that last weekend we celebrated my oldest son, Danny's birthday. He turned 39.
Oh my God.
So yeah, you've got a few good years ahead of you there. That's joy number one. And joy number two is that unfortunately I will not be here next weekend because we will be at our annual New York State Theater Festival, bringing the winning play from our playwright director's workshop that we did at the end of August. Not here, it was another group, so we did it in Ossining. And that's a joy every year as well. So thank you.
My name is Michael Schwartz. My pronouns are he, him. We took a trip to Harper's Ferry in West Virginia, and we followed the abolitionist trail. We learned a lot about John Brown and the abolitionist movement, and I was particularly touched that Theodore Parker, who was the leader of the Unitarian Church at the time, was very involved with the abolitionist movement, in addition to the Methodists and the Quakers who were leading that movement.
We light one final candle for all those joys and sorrows that remain unexpressed, and for those outside of our walls who are searching for a place to bring the wholeness of their lives and to be received with love.
Now is the time in our service for a moment of prayer, of pause, of meditation. Spirit of life and love, bigger than the universe, smaller than a grain of sand, present in all that is around us and all that will be. Beckon us forward through the days and night to be caring and kind, and to consider what it means to show up fully with one another and with this unfolding world. When so many are hungry, may we find ways to be generous. When so many are scared and fearful, may we bring moments of calm. When we ourselves are scared and fearful, may we remember that love really does exist. May we be surrounded by joy and hope and comfort in the hard times. May it be so. I did not get to meet Reverend Jim, but I got to exchange some emails, and I have heard story after story after story of Reverend Jim, literally all over North America. When I was in San Francisco, when my little one was in the NICU in San Francisco, I met a minister emeritus at the San Francisco congregation, John Burens, and he was like, "Young man, where do you serve?" And I said, I'm at Croton-on-Hudson, Congregation of the Hudson Valley. And he was like, "Jim Covington." So literally on the other side of the world, the love and gifts of joy that Reverend Jim gave this community ripple. And to me, there's a gateway into his ministry reflecting on this intentionality of commitment to marriage and families and couples. Because he saw something that said at a time when institutions were denying dignity, individual clergy, movements that are countercultural can offer an alternative and a different way. We don't have to be just what was. And even if an individual marriage or story doesn't work out, there's still dignity in the freedom to choose and cultivate and honor the right of people to be held and loved and protected. What Reverend Jim did was tap into an old story in our tradition, in fact, even older than our tradition, but this ancient work of growing a soul. Growing a soul. To grow a soul or to cultivate a soul in our Unitarian language, it talks about what the 19th century Unitarians like Theodore Parker would say, salvation by character. You come to wholeness by the actions and the choices that you live. It's not just external forces that have no control. You have a role to play in ennobling and recognizing and being in awe of all that is. One of the preachers of that time, William Ellery Channing, said, "In ourselves, in you and me, are elements of divinity, unbounded spiritual energy." Unbounded spiritual energy. The affirmation that you can grow a soul means that you have dignity. It means that what is most amazing in the universe dwells inside of you, and that you can see it and feel it and reflect it back to the wider world. This is not always easy to do. In fact, oftentimes it may feel in our world there are so many forces keeping us busy and blurred and unable to see the dignity that is inside the human heart. But over generations, people from Maria Mitchell reminding us that the tremor of our words goes through eternity. People like Jim pointing to the greater good. People like Margaret Fuller asserting that there are more Virgin Marys in this world. There are more women who will transform the planet. People like Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, who said that we are called to live life abundantly. In one of her poems, she said, "Children of the earth and sun," that is you and me, children of the earth and sun, we are slow to understand all the richness of the gifts flowing from the source's hand. Children of the earth and sun. This congregation exists because at different points in time, people have been committed to growing a soul, to being in awe before the book of nature, that we are part of, that is greater than us, that we contribute to. Our congregation was blessed to have Reverend Jim in our story. And he came from a stream of ministers and lay leaders. In the 1950s, our first minister was the Reverend Bergie Bergler. She was the daughter of survivors of the Armenian genocide. After serving here, she went on to become a beloved professor of religion at Rutgers and Mount Holyoke. Before she was here, she was the director of religious education at All Souls and worked with young professionals. After her was Reverend Dana Klotzel, who is director of the Office of the United Nations of our association. He was ordained as a universalist and had a vision for world partnerships and peace. He dedicated hours of his life to fundraising for causes overseas, and in the midst of the tumultuous war in Vietnam, he gave all, and he died of a heart attack in his younger years. After that, the lay leaders of the congregation, including people in this room, kept the flame going, kept growing a soul, invited a guest preacher to bring a plane and talk about what the spirituality of flight might mean to us. Then we worked with the Reverend Jason Hayes, who is also connected to the First Unitarian Society. And then after Reverend Hayes left in the 80s, a kind man began guest preaching here, Reverend Jim Covington. And at the time, the pulpit was on that side of the room, and I heard that he even played the piano himself. I can't do that. And then in 1989, he became a regular. 1990, signed a contract to lead 2 worship services a month, and by 1994, more and more was really the minister of this community. And in the 1990s and 2000s, this congregation grew and grew to the point that there were 2 Sunday morning services. And parents learned about how to grow their soul and the soul of their kids. And a group of young high school students traveled from Westchester to Germany to meet Unitarians in Germany. And families discerned and discussed, how do we keep growing the soul of our community? And Reverend Jim ministered to this community in the aftermath of 9/11 attacks. Over 100 people in Westchester were killed, among the thousands killed that day. And in the prayer he wrote, which we heard earlier, which was in the newsletter after that, he said, I pray our hope in the greater goodness of people will not falter. I pray we will not fall to self-righteousness or deny our own hypocrisy. I pray we will continue to cherish each other and love one another, knowing humbly that no one is perfect, and that if we care enough, we can see the same tears, pain, and joy. Reverend Jim retired in 2011 and was voted by the will of this congregation to be Minister Emeritus and honorific in 2016. Throughout his ministry, Reverend Jim would appear dozens of times in the New York Times, often for officiating weddings, but every now and again for a voice, a reflection on liberal religion in a changing society. And one piece he offered that stays with me is this reflection that even in the aftermath of trauma, if anything, especially in the aftermath of trauma, it is important to show up and love and care and accompany. Because the vocation of the dignity of every person can stay an abstraction unless it's held in our embodied selves that are part of this wider world, that our soul is something that's alive and that we can cultivate. The old transcendentalist would talk about everything you do can either help grow your soul or contract it, can never destroy it, but you can put energy in that brings out the power and love and life and beauty within you. And I think Reverend Jim's witness and love and testament remind us that with the time we have, we can do so much. And even if we only encounter someone for a brief moment, we can contribute to the story. Jeannie was talking about the role of the General Assemblies in offering reflections and resolutions and insights. In 2004, our General Assembly voted to affirm the statement that the ability to live ever more authentically as one's true self is central to a lifelong journey towards spiritual fulfillment. Creating the space, place, and support to authentically be one's true self is part of the lifelong journey of spiritual fulfillment. That's old. That's ancient. And those ancient words, that affirmation represented in our times, leads us to be in solidarity with our transgender siblings, to be in solidarity with people right now who are hungry. And I want to thank you, if you're able, for bringing the food, for the food pantry. We need to keep this up, and you've been doing so good. There's so much disruption and evil and harm and callousness and cruelty in this moment. But I think some of that hope in the greater goodness is reflected in a poem from H. Melt, who's a transgender writer in Chicago, in a poem called City of Trans Liberation, which includes the line, "One day in the city of trans liberation, no kids are kicked out or run away from home. Nobody asks for ID or our real names. Everybody has a body they believe in. We walk outside in the daytime without being harassed. We are taught to love instead of to hurt. Transgender Day of Remembrance celebrates those who have died of natural causes. There are no borders between who we were and who we are becoming. Growing a soul is an ancient vocation that is profoundly relevant in the life and times that we live. It's a radical vision that unites Maria Mitchell, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, Reverend Bergie, Jim Covington, and you. Through our distinct personal spiritual practices, whether journaling, walking in nature, meditation, contemplation, service, companionship, tending gardens, visiting the sick, and our collective work as a gathered people, we are nurturing what is sacred. Yesterday, dozens of people nurtured and cared for this very plot of land, which was nurtured by other communities before us. The work of growing a soul is ongoing and possible, and you don't have to do it alone. May we ever be oriented toward that hope in the greater good, and listen for the echoes and vibrations of words across generations. And may we accompany one another, especially in the hard times. May we grow a soul.
Each week, we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in the spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with the holiday gift-giving program for the residents of Hope's Door and Jan Peak Homeless Shelter in Peekskill. Please refer to our e-newsletter or website for more information. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter, or by visiting our website, UUCHValley.org, or if you prefer, you may always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. These gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. And now please join in singing hymn number 128 in your gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May we not lose hope in the greater good. May we accompany one another in the hard times. May we journey. May we be present. May we grow our souls. May it be so.
Later is fine with me, you know, if we just think we'll get people to come out at that time.